alone a split level personality. I would probably think that why would I be the God of the world when my own creation is about to kill me and there's nothing I can do? Even the prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane, when I prayed, yes, even that did not get fulfilled.
Can I just finish
Yeah.
sort of on this point? Do you know, it's a point of agreement. I would say that there was a huge challenge psychologically with Jesus. So I would not say that Jesus had on earth a clear view of everything. I would say that there would have been a wrestle and a struggle. And I think if you say there was just a clear view, he knew he was divine from day one, no struggle, no problem. Number one, it doesn't make sense of scripture. Number two, it goes into a docetic view, where it just seems like the human nature of Jesus was just assumed in it, but it was just this divine figure who just clothed himself in sort of this mystical human nature that wasn't really there. So I would say to you, psychologically, that was a struggle. And I think a very good movie that sort of brings us out, just to end on this point, a very good movie that brings us out, without some of the horrible bits of it, is The Last Temptation. The Last Temptation is quite an old movie. It's a bit...
Is it a new one?
No, it's old. It's old. It's about Jesus. But
Older than the...
Passion of
Christ.
Yeah, it's older than that. So it's about I think it was made by Scorsese or someone like that. But it's a very good movie because it shows you sort of the mental struggle that Jesus went through. Like he says, he's struggling, saying, what do you mean? And he's even talking to himself, saying, what does he mean when he's hearing these things and all these sort of things like that? And I sort of envision the incarnation in that way. And for me, it makes me see the glory of Christ more, that he knowingly, prior to the incarnation, knew that he was going to put himself through this when he didn't have to. There was no necessity for him to do this, but he chose himself to lower himself and to know that he was going to suffer, struggle physically, mentally as well, psychologically. He was going to endure so much suffering. And for me, that brings this glory and gloriousness of Christ because he didn't have to do this. So I agree with you. I don't say to you that there was any clarity.
I think that there was a lot of clarity because Jesus at many points and at many times clearly identified in his belief system, whatever that you consider that to be, who the one true God was in John 17:3. When Jesus actually says, "My Father is greater than I," it's very clear again. When he talks to his, even post-incarnation, when he talks, post-resurrection, when he talks to Mary Magdalene, he says, "Go to go to my brethren and tell them that I go to my Father and your Father, my God and your God." So we do not see this psychological. I think the only time that we see this struggle of Jesus is when he was in agony just in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he prays to God like 3 times, and all the 3 times his prayer gets rejected to save him from the punishment of the crucifixion. Yes, and then he's crying. He's literally crying and tears of blood, and this is deep agony. But even then, I think that was his fear of being punished very severely, because this is torture you're talking about, extreme torture on the cross, and he knew how the Romans torture people on the cross. So this is his fear as a human being that he's going through. So this psychological, wrestling that you're seeing here is within himself as a human being, not between God and human, not between the second person of the Trinity, who's fully God according to the creed, and his human nature. There was a clear, in his humanity, he was quite clear that there was one God, and he was a servant.
What I meant by that struggle was not like, the two belief systems were fighting with each other and, it was going crazy. I wasn't saying that.
No, I was saying, if he knew he was God, don't you think that would happen?
No, so what I was
think about it logically.
No. So what I was saying was, there would have been times that, Jesus would have questioned things, and he would have thought, like in Gethsemane, like, even though it seemed like so clear that he knew that he was having to die. I mean, even inaugurating the Eucharist and saying, that this is my body, this is my blood, which is, being poured out for you. Those sort of things. It seems like Jesus had a clarity that he had to go and do this. Like, there was no way. So for him, when he goes to Gethsemane, to then go and say, take this away from me, take this cup away.
3 times.
Yeah, I mean,
3 times.
But then it
and
shows,
all the times
it shows then that there was, this element of, yes, he was certain. He was clear of certain things.
No, he wasn't willing.
One second.
It wasn't like he went there willingly. He was trying.
That doesn't make sense then.
No. To me, it seems like he was trying to bail out from this very torturous method.
Yeah, if you look at that verse in isolation, yes. But then you can't make sense of the Eucharist. You can't make sense of this inauguration of the Eucharist, which it's an all text. I mean, you can't go and say, why would he then inaugurate this event number one, which was, you know, the time of Passover, which was then to replace the Passover meal? And, you know, why would he do that? Then he was
Are you
saying
talking pre-crucifixion or post?
yeah, pre-crucifixion. So
Okay,
when he,
so pre-crucifixion.
so when, you know, I'm saying pre-Gethsemane. So I'm saying
Yeah.
when he you know, inaugurates the communion, where he, you know where he breaks the
Yeah.
bread, brings the wine, and
The Last Supper.
and he associates
Yeah.
this though with his sacrifice. So then, if he was going to inaugurate this communion event that said, "Do this when you meet in remembrance of me," when he said, "Do this in remembrance of me," we're ending now. When he said, when he said, "Do this in remembrance of me," that seemed like he was certain that I was going to die, and I'm doing this as an atoning sacrifice. So it doesn't seem then that
But
if you read that in context with Gethsemane, that he was trying to bail out.
No, but imagine this: if Jesus' only objective was to die and save mankind
I
from,
wouldn't say that's his only objective.
well, the main objective.
I mean, no, I would say the main objective is inaugurating the kingdom of God, and the way that that was completed was through his crucifixion.
Okay, let's say one of his main objectives was
yes.
to die for the sins of mankind
Yes.
and to redeem them from the sin. Is that right? If that was one of the main objectives, yes, then do you really think someone who knows that he is God and that is the only way humanity will be saved, do you think that he would actually bail out, knowing the fact that he will be raised on the third day?
Yeah.
I mean, I would not jeopardize the salvation of all of mankind
Yes.
just so that I might not be tortured
Yes.
temporarily.
I would say
need
that
to wrap up because
yeah,
of the-
definitely now.
yeah.
I would say that you have a point for a monophysite view. So a monophysite view that said there's only one nature, it doesn't make sense because
I'm still,
but
I'm still maintaining the two natures.
But I'm saying
Yeah.
but I'm saying how it's a problem for monophysitism is because it's saying Jesus should have been clear from the beginning and never wrestled with anything. It seems very strange that he knew that one of his primary goals was to atone for the sins of the world. But then he was trying to, you know, struggle with it at Gethsemane. It doesn't make sense if he had this one nature.
But that was in the beginning. That was the end of his ministry.
I'm saying if he had two natures, it
Yeah.
makes sense. Because he always knew in that divine nature there was never any problem, and the divine nature would have sent, you know, into his human belief system certain, you know, knowledge about what's going to happen. But one second, in that human belief system, in that human nature, he was struggling, he was limited, he was thinking, you know, was this going to happen?
Josh, it's one consciousness, remember? It's
Yes.
one consciousness.
Yeah, but
if it's one consciousness,
Yes.
and if this consciousness has already convinced him that he's God, yes, then trust me, he would not be saying these things. My God, why have you abandoned me? My father, take this cup away from me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know if you watch good movies. I
have to watch the movie.
I don't know if you watch movies in general. But
I do.
A movie to watch sometime is a movie called
I watched The
Split.
Passion of Christ.
Yeah, it's a good one. A movie called Split.
The whole thing was in Aramaic. I had to read the subtitles.
Yeah, that's how it is. But yeah. Anyway, we'll carry this.
Yeah,
on.
no problem.
Good speaking to you
Yeah,
as
likewise.
always, man. I love
Take
it.
care,
I love
mate.
it. Honestly,
Okay,
thank you.
take care.
Should we?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.